Welcome to Nintendo Ninja News. I'm your host, Chris Tyson, and we're here to talk about F Zero and the future of the series and what's going on with that. Because there was an interesting interview that was taking place on Video Games Chronicles with Takai Imada. I'm probably saying that completely wrong, so let's have a look at some of the interview here that we've got on our page. So, some of the questions are interesting about talking about F Zero as a series, and some Nintendo fans don't understand. Um, they talk about the lack of F Zero games, and they say, "Well, why is it F Zero and Star Fox doesn't get new games, but Kirby and Fire Emblem do, which they feel kind of repetitive?" And they say it's a question of sales, which is probably the right answer. I think that's the main reason why Nintendo hasn't bothered with F Zero in recent history, and I think that Miyamoto has not thought much about F Zero in general from this question here. Um, so his other reasoning is Mario Kart is Nintendo's most popular racing game, and he says a new F Zero would cost a fortune. My impression is Miyamoto-san is very affectionate about Star Fox. So there has been some recent stuff with Star Fox, like one on the Wii U and on previous consoles. But it's true, games do cost money and time, and I do think that people would not um, be really interested in an F Zero game. I just don't think that they would. Then they talk about Metroid series, which has had a bit of a renaissance, a sort of a resurrection. A couple new games, Metroid Dread and the Metroid Prime series being put on the Switch, the first one, and Metroid Prime 4 being made. And he goes along and says, well, it is easy to revive IPs, but careful consideration is needed to produce them as something that really satisfies customers. I believe that the overseas studios currently producing Metroid are also the result of careful selection. Personally, I love the old 2D style Metroid. Um, and he goes on to say, look, they can't work on F Zero because there are more important games coming out. And plus, Nintendo is a small studio, and they can't work on every single game. But Donkey Kong Country is a great example of giving it to another studio, and it does a great job. Um, and Platinum Games recently said they'd like to release Star Fox Zero on the Switch. I think that would be okay, actually. I know it's not the perfect Star Fox game that people like, but I actually enjoyed it for what it was. I thought it was fun. Um, but yeah, it is interesting about with the F Zero series and with Star Fox that it doesn't get much love or attention, and I think I can understand why. You look at the sales here, and you can see it's the most successful game was the original on the Super Nintendo, 2.85 million, followed by 1.1 million, 1 million, less than a million, not even good, and F Zero Climax wasn't that good. So those sales may be incorrect, but it gives you a fairly good idea that the sales have been pretty poor. And to be honest, why would you spend a lot of time on an F Zero game if it's going to get you those type of sales? Where you could work on something that's more important, that would get more sales, make money. Because at the end of the day, Nintendo is a business, and that's what they do best. That's what they're trying to do. Keep the investors happy and keep the business turning over. But yeah, I think that is the current state of F Zero as it is, and I don't think you will see an F Zero game anytime soon, which is unfortunate for the fans. But there's not enough of you fans that would go out and buy it. That's the problem. And that's the issue about it. So that's how it is, sadly, unfortunately. But there are plenty of other games to play from Nintendo. It's just there'll be some series that will not be revisited, probably not for a long time. But do let me know what you think about the F Zero series and which studio would you give it to if you had that type of power. And I shall see you next time on Nintendo Ninja News. I'll see you next time.